This can actually
It's
show
for
the
employees.
YouTube screen,
Those bums.
and you're gonna kind of show the video starting right now. The video just still says the black screen of the city of Craig on.
Well, good evening. I can speak English, I promise. Sometimes.
So now back to the Zoom meeting, which is this icon here. This one, the blue one with the white.
Yeah. Almost there, boss. Almost there.
Some Mexican down there in Seattle
There you got it.
come up to me in Mexican restaurant and started just rattling off Spanish.
So it's ready to go.
And I answered in Spanish. Oh, white guy knows how to talk Spanish.
What? There it is.
Uh-huh. They're leaving. Uh-huh. Don't cut Can we do roll call, please?
Oh, I missed it.
Julie McDonald,
Here.
Hannah Bazinet,
Here.
Jim C.,
Here.
Millie Schoonover, Michael Campnich.
Here.
Chanel McKinley,
Is not here yet.
and Timothy O'Connor.
Here. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Nothing on the consent
Nothing
agenda.
on there, so we'll move on to hearing from the public. Open to public comment.
So there's a letter, put a letter at each of your places before the meeting from Cheryl Fecko commenting on the burn pit. So happy to answer any questions.
Just for public record, we will closely deal with that. I know you will, so it'll be dealt with properly.
And I talked to Cheryl last week on the 10th, as well as one other member of the public that called about it. And I've had conversations with Russell and RJ this week about tightening up on it. So we're working on some stuff to try and improve it.
Need to work on a letter to
And yeah, and I'll get with Ed about burning
prior,
outside the pit.
I would suggest prior permission and
Wood products.
monitoring wood products only. No more tires.
Will do.
Okay. Moving on, there's nobody speaking from the public.
Nobody, I checked Chris's email right before the meeting. Nobody asked to speak, so.
Okay. Moving on to resolution 20-20, are we gonna do that later?
Those will come up later on the agenda.
Okay, let's just bounce down there to reading the correspondence. Okay. We sent a letter, Southeast Senior Services sent us a thank you letter. Okay. The infrastructure bill passed, do you have anything on that, Brian?
It passed. I understand that it passed. Everybody's still trying to figure out exactly what it means, but the letter that Steve Silver sent us gives in pretty broad brushstrokes the funding pots that likely will have some effect on Alaska. And we've got a lot of projects across the board that may or may not result in funding out of these. Some water sewer projects, our harbor project is likely contained in the infrastructure bill, and a number of other things, so we're following that pretty closely.
I know Lisa Murkowski and everybody at AML conference up there in Anchorage was pretty excited. Mike?
Millie just texted me. She said her access code won't work. She might have got it wrong or something. Can you try that again for her?
I will. You want to respond to her?
I told her stand by.
So the number she needs to call is 1-800.
Just a second.
Yes, you know.
Hi.
Okay, go ahead.
1-800-315-6338.
Mhm.
And the code is 63275 pound.
Okay.
So we'll, I've got Sherry Klein keeping an eye out for some stuff in the infrastructure bill. Steve Silver is still parsing through it, and I'm reading information as it comes out, so I'll try to understand it all.
Make a note that Chanel showed up. Hi, Chanel.
Hi. Sorry, late babysitter.
That's okay. You're here. Millie's trying to show up.
Yep.
She gets her numbers right, we can get her. Okay, November 11th, update on the wolf management plan. Did everybody read that? They have a lot better numbers than they've had in the past. Hopefully they keep refining.
Yeah, comment?
Yes, sir.
You know, I know it's been frustrating. The numbers have been, apparently low, and most people in the island believe that. But in reality, the state has put a lot of work into the science of this, and it took a while, but they're now at a point where they're very confident in raising that number, and in the long run, that's for the better, because they're a lot less likely to be challenged and have a problem or something like that with litigation, which clearly is coming. So, I really applaud the state for the work they've been doing. Is, I think all of you know, I assist on the project collecting the DNA. They are very thorough, and it's taken a little bit of while, but that's sometimes the way science works. And so overall, I think that this is great, and I applaud them for continuing to work to try and get it right.
I agree.
Hi, Millie, is that you?
No, this is RJ.
Oh, hi, RJ.
She said that one doesn't work for her. She asked if you could call her.
Okay, make any questions on the wolf issue? Did you miss the wolf, Chanel? You didn't shoot him or what?
I've read it.
Okay, consideration of resolution and ordinances. Oops. I just lost it. And that is resolution 2120, authorizing signatures for account held at First Bank.
Move to adopt resolution 21-20.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 20-20, authorizing signatures for accounts held at First Bank. All in favor?
This would be a roll call vote.
Oh, it is. Sorry.
All good.
Oh, here, okay. Hannah Basnet,
Yes.
Millie Schoonover. Oh, she didn't. Michael Campnich.
Yes.
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.
Yes.
You want to give me his initial?
Unanimous vote?
Tim, I'll call him.
Okay. Moving on to resolution 2121, Alaska Dreamin' LLC, POW1,
Millie, is that you?
all 2-year access permit. Anybody got any comments on that?
Millie, did you get logged onto the phone? Okay, I texted her the number again. I'm getting her voicemail.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Millie. All right,
Hi.
all right. Millie's on the phone now.
Okay,
Man, this took an act of Congress to get through.
bureaucracy, Melly, that's the way it is.
So the council discussed this access permit at the meeting last 2 weeks ago and directed us to go ahead and put the resolution together. Access permits that are longer than 12 months require council approval, so that's where we're at.
Okay, now we're voting on the resolution 21-21, Alaska Dreamin' LLC, POW 1 Gulf, 2-year access permit. You have any comments on that, or?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Move to approve resolution 2121. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve resolution 2121, Alaska Dreamin' LLC, POW 1 Gulf 2-year access permit. We gonna do a roll call or in favor?
Roll call vote.
Okay, roll call.
Well, it seemed initially there was a lot of comments on this, but that's tapered off now that people are used to it. Is that correct? Like at first people were kind of surprised, what's this? And then it seems like the public is kind of.
Well, there were some comments, aren't the only comments we got last time were positive. And there haven't been any official complaints, other than somebody doesn't like the idea that we're leasing public land to somebody.
Without letting them go first.
Oh, okay. I thought there were a couple people that complained about it at first, but then it kind of.
Well, it was, the big thing was, it was just done So we said if it's redone, we
Yeah,
want
okay.
it to be done with more notice.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and this, this resolution, we still have the option of opting out of this at any point. So, I mean, it's not like we're binding ourselves for a full 2 years. I don't anticipate that to happen. I don't want it to happen, but
Yeah.
we still have that flexibility within this.
Yeah, especially if they violate terms, which again, I don't see
Right.
happening, but if it did. Okay, I'm good.
Roll call.
No, this is just a voice vote.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, you're right. Roll call. You got me right. Roll call, roll call.
We're on a roll now.
All right.
Hannah Bassett,
Yes.
Millie Schoonover,
Yes.
Michael Campnich.
Yes,
Julie McDonald,
Yes.
Chanel McKinley,
Yes.
Jim C.
yes,
Unanimous vote. Moving on to unfinished business. Consideration of the Angsta Landis letter.
I had one typo on the letter. I forgot to close the parentheses after other lands of interest at the second line of the letter. So minor typo. Short of it is that the council at the last meeting saw some maps for the landless, Ketchikan landless tribe. They moved a couple of the land selections, but Kitkin Cove was still, Prince of Wales was still one of the selections. The council asked me to draft a letter to send to Senator Murkowski, again, kind of reiterating the fact that the city of Craig would like to not see any of the landless selections come off of Prince of Wales.
Good. Everybody good with that? Yeah.
I have a stupid comment. So you know how page one has a little purple box around it and then everything, will page two look like that when it's printed out?
No,
Well,
but I can make it look that way.
I don't know, it just kind of almost like when I was reading it, I almost felt like it was a different document and I kind of went back. I don't know. That's just me.
That's the way our letterhead is formatted.
Oh, is it?
The first page has a
I've
border.
never noticed it
and the rest
before.
of it. But,
Huh.
I'm happy to put a border on the second page.
It looks more uniform to me, but it's, again, a minor issue.
Okay, I can do that.
I have noticed that too. To me, it's a little bit of a just, kind of a professionalism in how it looks. I've seen that before. It doesn't make any difference, but it's an appearance thing. I agree.
All right, new administrator, new way to start with that.
God, we're tackling these major issues. City would burn otherwise.
Okay.
But
Any
you know,
discussion on this Angsta rules and letter, or?
No.
Everybody's happy with what's going on?
that's good enough for me, Mr. Mayor. I will prepare a good copy with borders and all for your signature.
Nothing purple?
Everything purple.
Good. That's the way we like it. All right,
Go with pink actually.
it could be pink.
I mean, it's like.
If we're gonna make a big decision like that, it should be on the agenda for the next meeting, to get public comment.
Probably. I agree. What do you think, Kim?
Oh, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. Purple better, all right. Okay, we're considering ATV/UTV committee appointment discussion. I was considering appointing a park council and park citizen committee to give us their input on the possibility of us approving this four-wheelers in town on our paved streets. Just to get some input from the committee and from them. And I wanted to have RJ and the ex-police chief and a couple other troopers, maybe possibly, involved in this. And then some citizens that are pro four-wheeler and let them have a little debate. See where it ends up, if everybody's agreeable to something like that.
I think that's a great idea. I think having all the input, 'cause I kind of would like to see it happen, but let's think we're going to do it in a way that's safe. So I love that idea. I have no interest in being on committee.
What's the age limit for ATV?
16 and up.
16, not formal license.
You have to have a driver's license.
But we could change that if we wanted to, I think.
No,
Only up.
yeah.
Not lower, up.
Yeah.
And that would be one concern of mine, as well as demanding helmets and setting a possible speed limit. Now, can we set the speed limit lower than traffic, or is that okay?
I don't know. Our side streets are all 15 miles an hour by ordinance, just they're not posted really well. The state highway,
This is RJ, can I say something?
Yeah, RJ, go ahead.
Yeah, the city ordinances can be greater than but not less than state law. And I think there would be an issue with traffic if we had the ATVs going at 15 on the highway from like St. Nick coming into town when other traffic's coming to 25. That would pose some other issues. I'm in the process of obtaining city ordinances that are currently in place. Hoona has one, Haynes has a partial one, Skagway's in the process of modifying theirs to just allow them on certain streets, but not all their streets. So I should be able to have a variety of information to give to the committee once it's formed and we get a date that we can actually all meet.
And I've got, the Wrangell clerk sent me the Wrangell ordinance on ATVs on streets. I'll email that to you tomorrow, RJ.
Okay, yeah, that's one I haven't got there, but I'm working on all the other ones. I mean, there's pros and cons either way, and depending on which way the council wants to go, I mean, if they vote to do this, I think there's certain steps in place that it'll make it easier to enforce it.
Yeah. Well, I'll get together with you and we can sit down and talk about it. Then I want to invite these guys in just to hear what they got to say. As soon as we got some more details on what we're looking at, if we were to allow and if we weren't, so.
And my understanding of.
Right, and
Go ahead, RJ.
yeah, I know that it becomes effective January 1st of 2022. And just so the council's aware, I am going to be traveling up to Anchorage for the first 2 weeks of December. But I mean, I can still participate with the committee, and I can even have one of my officers in person, but I don't have a problem calling in either to try to expedite so that we can get something before the council before the new year.
And related to that, the mayor and I talked the other day, and if the council is not against it, I can bring a resolution or ordinance back to the council to put a short moratorium on ATV usage on the street. As RJ said, it goes into effect January 1st automatically unless communities opt out. So it may be, if we're still kind of talking through the issue and deciding whether or not to regulate it more than what the state is, it may be a good idea to put a 3 or 4 month pause or 6 month pause on the regulations taking effect. And that would essentially require us to opt out for a short period of time.
big time, especially with it January 1st with the snow and the ice on the roads. This is not the time for them to start doing this.
So if there's no objection, I'll at least start drafting either a resolution or ordinance, whichever is required for the committee to opt out for a specific amount of time while we review the whole issue.
City limits, so does that mean they gotta go out all the way out to the turnout?
No, they can't go anywhere where the posted speed is above 45.
Okay, so after the 35 mile an hour sign, they gotta
Right.
turn around? Yeah.
Pretty much you gotta turn around the high school.
Okay. I didn't know if they would just let them go, but they could only go 45.
The way the state regulations read, it only applies to roads with a posted speed limit of 45 miles an hour or less.
Okay.
Yes, Mike.
I would be interested in being on the committee.
What's that?
I would be interested in being a part of the committee if that's possible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're an ex-officer, so that might come in handy too. We'll sit down and compile a list.
Okay, and I'll start,
Contact
I'll put
everybody.
something on the Facebook page or something to solicit interest and give you a list of folks who've expressed interest, and you can take as many or few as you want.
Yeah.
We have a couple of people left, if we have a meeting and we're listed.
Yes. Yeah, Brian Castle, DJ Hansen,
Yeah.
and Chet, yeah.
Some interest from the younger
Yeah.
generation to.
Well, their input on it, but also, yeah, well, you know,
My big thing is, if you gotta have turn signals on a motorcycle, you're gonna have to have turn signals on these days. I don't don't agree with the state. I think the state laws are mine personally, but that's, I mean, the side-by-sides have turn signals, most of them, headlights. But you can't use a regular dirt bike that's got a headlight and a tail light and a brake light, just because it doesn't have turn signals.
And I'll get with RJ and one of the two of us will get our hands on the applicable state regulations at all as well. It would automatically go into effect January 1st.
We're not having the blinkers.
The way the new law is written with the turn signal issue is, with the new state law, you're able to use hand signals.
Right, you know that, but they still don't allow motorcycles that don't have turn signals to go, do they? They didn't change that, did they, RJ?
No, but some of your enduros, if they don't have the turn signals, they can still be street legal, and they have to use hand signals to make their turns.
I didn't think that you would register it if it didn't have the turn signals on it. They wouldn't 10 years ago.
My understanding with the way that the new law that comes into effect, it gives that exemption through DMV to basically an ATV, as long as it's got a headlight, a brake light, and the person knows which the hand signals are, they would be legal.
So could we make it harder than that or not?
No, we could, the city could opt in and have an ordinance to basically stipulate that you have to have working and flashing turn signals. Because like I say, a city ordinance can be greater than but not less than what the state law requirement is.
Okay.
I know that there's no helmet law in Alaska, but is there for people under a certain age?
There is for motorcycles, but with this ATV issue, they've given, and I don't agree with it, but they're saying that the driver doesn't have to basically wear a helmet regardless of age. I think that we should have them wearing a helmet, and passengers as well.
Otherwise, we're gonna need to carry a shovel and a garbage can in the ambulance, so.
I mean, they're still gonna have to follow the traffic and safety, so I can't see them just like, I mean, obviously they're gonna be, some of them are gonna be out there whipping around, but that's why we have the police here.
Right. In the old days when they whipped around, they go places police cars don't go.
Can't go.
Yeah.
We
And that's
chased
the problem.
lots of them in the old days. They weren't legal to be on the streets in the first place.
Could also make the in-town 45 miles per hour avoid the limit. I'm just kidding.
45 is still legal.
Oh, we'd have to make it 50 in town. All right, well,
Which
never
would be
mind.
great for the school.
It would just not be.
So this will be essentially an informal working group because we're including some folks not in the city limits. It doesn't fall into the definition of an appointed committee by the council. So basically the purpose of the group will be to have some of these discussions.
A workshop in
And,
essence.
A workshop in essence, and then we'll bring some input from the group back to the council when it's time to make some decisions. Okay, well, since we're talking about an informal working group, that's enough direction to move forward on.
Okay.
Next item doesn't have any action, except everybody's looking for a motion to make. There is not one. I just wanted to put this on the agenda in case the council wanted to talk about it, so.
Is that what their final deal is that map?
This is the final map that was adopted by the redistricting board. Traditionally, these things go straight to litigation. And it's looking like this will end up in the courts and the courts will weigh in. I haven't heard of any litigation yet related to Southeast. There's some likely litigation around Anchorage. And I think in one of the Fairbanks Senate districts, there's likely some litigation. But I haven't heard yet of any litigation that centers on making changes to the Southeast boundaries. So my guess is that unless some litigation pops up, this is likely to be the way the maps play out for Southeast Alaska. Again, so the short of it is the majority of Prince of Wales is in District 2, House District 2, Senate District A, except for Whale Pass and Kaufman Cove. They've been paired with House District 1, so they're kind of attached to Ketchikan, Wrangell area. District 2 that we're in would include Petersburg, which is kind of new. Sitka, we traditionally, in fact, our current House representative and senator are both from Sitka. Sitka would still be in our district, as well as kind of communities winding all the way up to Yakutat, which is fairly standard for the districts that Prince of Wales has been in over the last couple of redistricting efforts. The only other thing of note there is, like I said, House representatives serve 2-year terms, so every even year they're up for election. When they redistrict the Senate seats, they kind of decide who's up for re-election in a redistricting cycle. And so this coming year, both our House seat and our Senate seat will both be up for election.
Sounds like fun.
Redistricting always is.
One question, I know historically, as far as I know, all the communities in the island have always preferred to be in one district. I think it's unfortunate that 2 small communities got carved out. Have you heard from Kaufman Cove and Whale Pass what their thoughts are? Or?
I have not. I'm happy to make some phone calls, but I haven't heard.
Why don't you make some phone calls to those 2 mayors and find out what their thoughts are on this, where they stand? Because I don't really like them carving those 2 out either. It's kind of, for the population they're gonna gain for Ketchikan and that, I mean, that's like so
Kind
insignificant.
of odd.
And
Why
there's,
would they wanna pick up 10 people? It's like,
yeah, and the discussions have been kind of, some people think it's a good thing to have an extra House representative representing Prince of Wales.
I thought of that.
For some folks, your earlier discussion is exactly right. It doesn't make sense to carve. I think there's maybe, I don't know what the population is, 200 in Kaufman Cove, 250 in Kaufman Cove, and another 60 or 80 in Whale Pass.
So 300
So
people.
each of the House districts, I think, is set at about 18,000. The population apportionment puts each of the House districts at about 18,000. So the 300 or 350 people that we're talking about, it's kind of it doesn't make a significant difference in the size of the House districts either way. But I'll make a phone call to the Whale Pass mayor.
Concerned with that also, in case there's ever a borough reform, does that set a precedent that Ketchikan's got their foot in the door on Prince of Wales too?
And I don't know the answer to that. I don't think so. The Senate districts, the House districts are not necessarily drawn in the same light as the model borough.
That's the boroughs.
Boundaries. So
Because there was a guy at AML getting ready to push the unorganized boroughs to force us to organize. He's from Fairbanks, and he's pushing for organization, so. Interesting.
I'll find out what Kaufman Cove and Whale Pass think about it being carved out and let the council know.
That's good, thanks.
Okay, U.S. Corps of Engineers and the Craig CTA, Craig Travel Association consultation update.
So again, I don't have a motion. I'm not really looking for action from the council. I just wanted to keep you in the loop. There was a copy of the letter in the last council packet that CTA sent to the Corps of Engineers requesting government-to-government consultation on the harbor project. I've kind of outlined the 4 issues that the Corps shared with me. We still have not had what the Corps calls a staff level meeting, which is where we would be involved in discussions with both CTA and with the Corps to talk about these issues that have been raised in the government-to-government consultation. So I'll keep council apprised as those discussions open up. But right now, it's the Corps of Engineers asked me to stress that are not being included in the consultation is a matter of federal law. I think I called it operating procedures in the memo, but they asked me to stress that we weren't allowed to participate in the direct meeting according to federal law. So our involvement will start with the staff level meetings, which have not occurred yet.
I think a couple of things to mention to them is probably that, maybe there are 20 or 30 king salmon caught total from the red can. Those fish are gonna end up sitting in front of the other docks, or they're gonna be at the green buoy. And the other thing that the city has done to mitigate this thing is we put in a flipping king salmon hatchery. So it's like, I don't see where they should be able to touch us at all on this subsistence issue. All they gotta do is move over and go in front of there's so many fish in front of the fuel dock and down from the dump down anymore that, and they're all tagged fish from there. They come in from that end a lot, so I don't think that they have a leg to stand on that one, but just something to let the Corps know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I caught 4 in front of the field dock this year, trolling. I know they're there. Okay, moving on to new business. American Rescue Plan Act, Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund Amendment. What do we got there, Brian?
So two things. One is that the only action that I really need tonight is pretty straightforward. There's an amendment to our agreement for the ARPA funds that are designated for communities. It actually increases our allotment by about $100,000. So I think John explained at one point that money under ARPA going straight to communities, really there's 2 sources that we were eligible for. One was just because we're a city, kind of a direct amount. And then the other amount, since we're in the unorganized borough, was given to the census area and then divided out by, I think, a population-based formula that the Treasury Department used. And we thought originally that those dollar amounts were going to be about $300,000 from each pot. It turns out that the amount from the census area pot is about a little over $400,000, so about $100,000 more. Both of these pots are divided into 2 tranches of money. We've already received the first half of the direct community money, and as soon as we sign the amendment, we'll get the first half of the census area funding. And then sometime next year, they'll come back and we'll get the second half of both pots of money. So the only action I'm really looking for the council to take tonight is to authorize the mayor to execute that amendment. We'll send it back to the state. But I also wanted to just generally get a feel from the council. Now we know how much money we're looking at total. And we have between now and the end of December 2024 to spend it. I think we've talked in a couple of meetings about generally the things that the money can be spent on. There were a couple of specific questions at the last council meeting, one of which had to do with medevac insurance. A reminder that that ends this month, what we paid for last year. I contacted AirMedCare and they quoted us $47,000 for another 12 months, which is about $100 a household. We're calculated the coverage based on 470 households in Craig. So I think I just saw that their normal charge is about $125 for family coverage. So that's a discount of about 20% over the individual coverage rate. So if the council chooses, that could be one of the items that we spend some of the ARPA money on. Generally, again, response to the COVID disaster, we're eligible for some public works projects that we could use funding for. We're eligible for revenue replacement. Rough figures, we've calculated that we likely would be eligible for about $140,000 in lost revenue that could really be spent on a wide variety of municipal purposes, even stuff that's in the budget for this year. We can also, it's not as generous as the CARES Act, but we can displace some payroll. Again, that would kind of free up some general funds for some other things. I will note that just yesterday, I saw an announcement by the state that the state it also has a program for lost revenue replacement for communities from the state's pot of ARPA money. My initial reaction is we're probably not going to qualify, but I'm going to ask Sherry to run the numbers when she gets back to see. So I'm kind of generally looking from the council tonight for those things that you're interested in starting to allot ARPA money for. I don't need final dollar amounts tonight. I'm happy to come back at the next couple of council meetings with some specific proposals, but I am interested to find out what direction the council is interested in going with this kind of list of options that we've talked about for the ARPA money.
I asked Brian to contact them to get that quote on what the insurance would be for Garvey or whatever to cover the medevac flight insurance, because I know of one or two people in town that actually already used this. And for $46,000, that's half the cost of one medevac flight to Seattle. So, for one person.
Right, and the deal is this really protects the people that don't have anything, because normally you don't get this insurance unless you have other insurance, and they're only picking up the 20% part. So the people that are uninsured and Craig are getting a really good deal on this, so we're helping the people that need to be helped by doing that one. So that's one of the ones I've kind of in favor of.
Yeah. I'm for it. I think it's a great program. I just think we need to make it clear to the public that we're doing this because we're getting money, that this isn't just something the city now does for people.
Right.
Yeah.
We're doing this because we're getting money because of COVID.
Or if it goes-
Because I don't want people on year 3 to be like, well, why didn't you pay for it? You used to do that for it. Like,
Yeah, just tell them that we'll do a press release that says we're covering it just out of the COVID.
Because we got more.
because we got the COVID funds.
Yeah.
We're trying to help the public with the COVID funds. That would be my only concern, doing it again. Not opposed to it, but just communicating.
With my insurance, I have no deductible. So they don't charge me anything when they take me in that jet, which is amazing.
I don't even know for sure if my insurance covers it, but I still buy it every year for our house,
I do.
because
I
it's just
always
worth
Oh,
it.
yeah, even if it's the 20%, it's
Yeah,
worth it.
I
It's
know.
$100,000.
Yeah.
Did we find out if we could use it to cover the funds for the,
So it's a
Schools.
little complicated. The short of it is we cannot use it directly to cover that invoice because the invoice predates the ARPA time period. So we can't go back prior to ARPA and pay for an invoice that's dated prior to ARPA. But as I noted in the memo, there are a couple of ways that we can free up general funds using ARPA money, either by doing some payroll coverage or by doing some lost revenue replacement. Essentially what that does is kind of dominoes, right? That we would take money from ARPA to replace money that's in our current general fund, which would free up some of that general fund money, which would make us whole for that invoice. So not directly, but if we think about it kind of in terms of dominoes, there's a few options we have.
I think the roof on the, as much as we can get towards the roof on the sewer treatment plant, the lost revenues, and as whatever we can get to replace towards the salary thing, because all of that ends up doing the same thing. It ends up going to where we can get a necessary project done that we have to. You know, if one of the pumps goes out, the sewage lift station pump, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
We need to be ready to deal with that kind of stuff, so that's, we're good about keeping money in the bank to do that, but that's what this money can be for. So.
Okay.
Whatever we can do to do that, then we can think about, I don't know what kind of projects we would do. It's not very many people lost any money this last summer. No fishermen did.
And the state has been very upfront about both economic assistance programs for businesses and individual assistance. They've run some rent and utility programs using state ARPA money. They've run a couple of rounds of small business or business economic assistance with ARPA money. So we've been active at getting information on those state programs out. but not, at this point, I'm not really pushing us funding those programs again with the city's ARPA money.
I mean, there are jobs everywhere, so anybody who's not working is not working because they choose not to work at
And-
this point.
That's one of the big, and I don't know how this would play into this money, but that's one of the major issues from all the employers is finding good employees. I mean, it's a huge hindrance to a lot of our businesses.
Just a body, literally.
Yeah,
I'll take a body, a warm one.
It's just, you know, when you get that much money in unemployment, how are you gonna work? You get unemployment, you get one of them little cars to go buy your groceries at the grocery store and the feds. Why work?
so it's a big issue, I'm sure around the country, but I know here on the island, pretty much everybody I know that's owning their business.
Everywhere you
or
go in
maybe-
Seattle, you don't go into one business that don't have a help wanted sign on the front door. It's there, everybody in the country's in the same boat right now.
What about covering the city gym's parking lot out there, making that, only for
I can look,
recreational
and
use?
off the top of my head, I would have a hard time, I think, fitting that under the ARPA criteria. But again, depending on the dollar amount, that would be certainly a project that some funds that were displaced by ARPA funds for payroll or revenue replacement might be available
I
for.
think that's
And,
something, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, kind of on that topic, what about, this is just an idea, because I know that we do use that parking, I mean, I use it twice a week for karate. Not that we need to keep it for that, but we do need that parking sometimes. What about that, like, abandoned basketball court on East Hamilton, that's like
It
sad?
has to be completely dug out, it's on logs.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that's a huge project.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is just because having year-round stuff for the kids to do outside, under the weather.
Well, and that's why I was
and then
thinking that
also
area over
whenever they're
Bazaars.
doing bazaars or anything, there's area outside, tents to be used, it could be spread out more. It could be used a lot of different ways if it was covered.
I spoke to Dennis Watson about covering that, and he said that however we acquired that land or something, that there is some kind of a cloud on there that may not allow us to put a roof on it.
Well, the big thing is technically nobody's supposed to be parking out there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be recreation. and-
That's why
Yeah.
I've always thought that at least this half here should have a chain running across there so that two of the basketball hoops are always open to the kids, because
Yeah.
that whole thing was done as a court for kids to play on,
Yeah.
not to be used for parking.
And that's what I believe.
We need way more outdoor things for the kids here.
Yeah,
Anything
need
for
something
kids.
covered so they can stay driving or doing it. And then I looked at that and then I think, well, the elementary school's got that covered court in there, but there's not lit enough.
Yes.
And
Teenagers,
there, 3 or 4 kids up there is enough to take
It's
up that
packed.
area.
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
my
tight.
kid goes up there all the time, I know, and I know of all the issues with it, because it's the only thing there
And
is
it can't
in
be
the weather.
patrolled either, and I don't like
It's
that.
a really hard spot to watch.
It can't be watched.
I would rather my
Yeah,
kid
but
be
here,
right
yeah.
here.
No, I agree,
Yeah.
I agree, but I need to find out from Dennis exactly what and I think it's what he was talking about, that it was,
It's just, we can put a cover on it, I'm pretty sure, we're just not supposed to.
I'd love to cover it.
But I don't know how long can they put a covenant or whatever it is that they put on that?
John said it was in whatever, the forever.
Perpetuity.
I'm not familiar with the patent. I imagine that was done by patent. And I'll be honest, Jim, I'm not familiar with that patent, so I'd have to look at it.
I remember
I
John
think so long as
saying it
we're
was
good
in
about
perpetuity.
keeping the parking, or let them play on this end, all the time, but yeah, I can't imagine them not saying that putting a cover over it would be a good idea, as long as it's basically,
Right,
so I think that's something that we need to probably put on the list,
Capital list.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and, figure out how much it might cost or something, whether somebody could just throw a ballpark figure at it, it's not gonna be cheap, but I
Mike
think,
Bush could do that, he does these metal.
right, the steel building, with just, all it needs is the top.
The cover.
I've got a couple of folks I could probably ask for a ballpark. To answer your question directly, Hannah, I'm, off the top of my head, I have a hard time seeing how it would fit under one of the eligible funding categories for ARPA, but again,
I
there are
get that,
some
but with
ways
the
to move money around.
displaced and all that,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I mean, it seems like it's more evident that it's something we need since all this COVID and sports can't go on and this and that. It's just,
Well, it was something that was being considered prior to the COVID start, and then boom, that hit, and everybody just, like the jail and the courthouse and all that just went to hell
Yeah,
because of that. So it's something we need to pick up and start again, and that's one of the projects we need to start on.
I'll look at,
We might ask that. CBC is really going big time down there. They just bought a whole bunch of property here.
Chris is one of the folks I had in mind if I could ask for a ballpark.
The construction company out of Sitka that did the pool for us and has done other, they're planning on doing, well, they think they're gonna get the bid for the hospital. They think they're gonna get the bid for the new school and Hollis.
I thought they weren't gonna do the hospital. They are moving forward with the hospital?
There's some phases that are gonna start supposedly.
Moving dirt down there yesterday and today.
But yeah, I can talk to Mike Bush or I can talk to Chris Bolovich.
Or both of them.
Either one of them or both of them and get some numbers. So what I'll do is I'll ask Sherry to put a sharp point on the lost revenue amount based on the formula. It's a fairly complicated picture, so I'll have her start working on that. And we'll take a look back at eligible payroll, and I'll come to either the next meeting or back in January with some numbers for likely what we can pull out of those two programs. I'll bring back a proposal probably next meeting regarding the medevac insurance, and I'll start working on costing out the roof for the water treatment plant. Or I know they've been working on that project, so I'll kind of pick that up and then see if I can get a ballpark figure for covering some or all of the parking area. As we've discussed,
but the
we gotta
daycare would like theirs covered.
figure out if we can do it or not and what it would cost, and use some displaced funds as opposed to some direct ARPA funds. But I can bring those projects back and give council an idea of kind of where that leaves us in terms of the $700,000. And the only other thing that we're using it for at all in the meantime is we are using it. EMS has been using some to purchase COVID PPE and COVID response supplies, which is one of the primary uses. So we'll probably continue to do that with some of the funds.
Yeah.
So the only thing I need from the council then, besides that direction, is formal direction, a motion to execute the amendment so we can send that back to the state.
Move to direct staff and the mayor to execute the amendment to the ARPA coronavirus local fiscal recovery plan fund agreement with the state of Alaska.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Do we vote on something like this, or just put it on as a new business, or what?
Just a voice vote.
You do both, yeah, okay. All in favor? Yes, Mike, sorry, go ahead.
I did it, moving. The airlift funding, Guardian, I think that's a worthy program. It's obviously beneficial to some people in the community. It's a way to distribute things pretty equally across the whole community. As far as the city goes for eligible city payroll and, lost government services, stuff like that, we actually weathered things pretty good the last year and a half. We're really fortunate. And, we've had prior money that come in that we've been able to kind of offset a lot of that stuff. So one of the things that I feel strongly about, Jim mentioned it too, and I really think we have to start working on these, is some of these infrastructure issues. We've been talking about some of these things for a long time. If our wastewater pump downtown goes out, it's a mess. That's going to be a disaster, and I think we really need to take advantage of something like this and put a significant chunk of this money into, I'm not going to decide which one, that's up to staff and our department heads, but, really look seriously at our basic infrastructure and trying to keep it up to speed. I think that's really important.
I think that we should fix one and we should buy one that would work in multiple places and have it here for when one blows out, because they're ancient.
That's my point. I think we need to keep
But that's
Keep
what
on
we
that.
use that other money for.
What's the rough cost of something like that?
They're over 50 grand. These are 10.
I have.
I can't remember, somebody had it written down here at one point, they may be more than that, but
I just was looking for a ballpark, I didn't
they're
know.
spendy.
Yeah, I don't know what
There
the
there was something in
component-
one of our recent council packets that had an amount.
I know a whole lift station is between 350 and 500,000 or so, but I don't know, I'm not familiar with the cost of all of the components.
Oh,
So, but I'll get with I'll
it's
get with
that
Russell.
much for a lift station?
For a major lift station, a concrete deep well lift station with all of the equipment and then the logic controls that go. So we put that new lift station on West Hamilton Drive and the one out on East Hamilton Drive. Those with a little bit of pipe added to change the direction of flow. Those run give or take $500,000.
Ouch.
But that's for the whole project, and not just for replacement pumps. So those are, I mean, that's just, the pumps are just a component of that. I'd have to talk with Russell about what those costs are.
You're right, we should work on some of that with this.
Okay, I'll talk with Russell and bring back, and I'll talk with Russell and look through the ARPA guidance, and I'll bring back some proposals to the council to consider other ways to use the money.
Okay. Great Cannery site.
Oh,
we still need to vote on
Oh,
it.
we
Oh, you
still
don't
need
need
a
a vote.
Yeah.
vote to close that out, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, man. Millie, we'll get it right someday. I'll get it over. Okay, moving on to Craig St. Cannery site and harbor concept drawing. I had one problem with that drawing, I just noticed tonight.
What's that?
There isn't a boat launch on it.
There was not asked to be a boat launch on it. In fact, I think we avoided a boat launch on it
We've
on
got-
purpose.
Okay.
At least the early discussion, I mean, I say we avoid it, but it's, you guys can decide you want a boat launch on it, but
They didn't
there
move
was,
Line either, or that drive down dock over to the north as far as I thought they would. They just took the tip of that old building out there off.
yeah, well, they wanted to do that to make sure that there was maneuvering room between city float
Okay.
and that east side of the new float, that you could get large vessels in there and they could turn around. But the launch was discussed throughout the process with the harbor committee and the public, and generally the consensus was that we have numerous boat launches, and that would really require some additional upland space, because now you've got to have somewhere to park trailers and be able to turn a boat, truck and a trailer around to launch a boat, and
Yeah.
I agree.
so it was a conscious decision to this point not to include a boat launch in the new harbor.
And a few years ago, we had talked about maybe putting the second launch out at the other place too.
Right.
We don't need the traffic having boat tours down there, I don't think.
I agree. I have a question that might be dumb, and I don't know, maybe I can just show Brian. There's one building that has nothing, see that one right there?
Yes.
What is that?
That would be the superintendent house that's down there right now.
Oh, okay, it's between future commercial and parking, it's like a little rectangle, and I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, I think the architect left it on the drawing, just, one of the things that the architect did based on input was, not that we're gonna keep all of the buildings, but the architect wanted to design the site in such a way that the option to keep any of the buildings in particular was still there.
Yeah, that's fine, I
That
wasn't sure.
included the superintendent.
Looking at it, I was like, oh, what is this? And then the boardwalk is gonna go all the way, is that what that's indicating, there's gonna be a boardwalk all the way around?
Yes,
It's gonna stay, okay,
a board, kind of a combination boardwalk and trail.
trail, okay.
Um,
And then what exactly is the day use shelter that's sticking out on the breakwater?
So the concept is that there's some sort of recreational facility, maybe a gazebo or some
Covered
a fishing
picnic
shelter
bench.
covered.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that, just a picnic spot.
For some reason, I'm hearing day use shelter, I'm thinking where you store stuff, I don't know why,
No,
but,
no.
okay, that makes more sense.
No, the intent of that, if we put anything out there, would be just
Like a
kind of
little area
a
to
little recreation area.
Just sit,
Yeah.
and, okay.
We can store old people out there on the beach.
I don't know.
Someplace you can catch the king
I was just
salmon.
looking, I'm like, day use shelter, what is that? Shelter.
So that's the intent. I will say, I'm not prepared to share all of the numbers just yet, but just the day before yesterday, the architect sent me the numbers. And just as a reminder that these concept drawings are really include the very best of everybody's idea of everything. And I say that because when after the architect sharpens those numbers and I bring those back, there's going to be a lot of sticker shock. But please remember that that is kind of, number one, they're going to give us a very, very preliminary estimate. And those are always high until you really start looking at the specifics. And the other thing is, again, they're looking at restoring every building. They're looking at building gold-plated docks and floats. I mean, pretty much everything that we ask them to include is going to be included in those prices.
I don't wanna know the cost.
Yeah, and that's part of the process, is eventually, staff will bring recommendations and you guys will kind of have to decide the balance between cost and everybody getting what they're asking for in the whole thing. So there's a large print, I'll leave it up here, but I printed one large printout. And I'm happy to take any comments the council has back to the architect for any final changes. But and the only other thing I would mention is adoption tonight doesn't mean this is how it's going to look. It just means this is our working document moving forward.
Are they taking out that Ruth Ann's dock there as well? Just because some of the dock goes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna take out part of it.
Part of it?
What we discussed with those guys when they were here was that we have $70,000 from what Ruth Ann's burnt of new dock there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll save that new dock, and the other portion that's out there that's not really repairable for a reasonable cost, we'll do away with. Move that building in or put it somewhere else.
So yeah, it leaves the option of keeping part of the dock and using it as some recreational pedestrian facility or a little access to a float at the bottom, or put a little building at the end of that dock.
We even considered putting another grid in there, but putting a grid in is very difficult at this point of the game because of the paint. Hazmat paint in the water, they're drowning.
They're not gonna let you put it on the lid.
So we got two of them, they're not gonna let us put it more in.
So most of that pier is going to go away. The building on the end is going to go away, but the part that we rebuilt after Ruth Ann's fire, we've talked about at least throwing some ideas against the wall about how we could keep some of that and use it.
Kids gotta jump off something.
I just know that we rent it too, so.
Yeah, we do the building. I don't know if we could feasibly move that building in and put it on the end of that, but I think we could, if we really wanted to.
If you have enough desire and enough money, you can do whatever you want.
You can do whatever you want.
I mean, it's pretty just.
Turn it into Hannah's Cafe, she's been out there making hamburgers.
I didn't know you
Like
liked
short
order.
There was one change that the Harbor Committee made kind of right at the end to the dock layout, and that's moving some of the 70-foot fingers. The engineer from PN&D has expressed some concern that creates some turnaround issues that close to the breakwater, but the decision that Hans and I made was to go ahead and leave this drawing the way that the Harbor Committee wanted it at the end. And like everything else, it's subject to modification as we get closer and closer to construction.
Okay.
Other than that, this is pretty much exactly what came out of the public meetings when Corvus was here in town.
And you're looking for us to accept this concept drawing in some in form.
If council could adopt either as is or with some changes, that will give us some basis to move forward on.
Okay. Council understands it's just if we accept it as is, it's not necessarily the way it will be.
It's a concept.
It's a concept. It will be subject to change.
Move to adopt the concept drawing of the Great Cannery site in Harbor.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the concept drawing for the Cannery Side Harbor business anyway. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Keep seeing
Thank you,
that she's
Millie.
opposing.
Okay. Appropriation for drainage repair at the 1.3 mile St. Nick Road. Culvert. Anybody got any questions on that? Pretty self-explanatory in the packet there.
So I do have a question. So what, I think I got the idea. They're gonna dig a ditch that comes back to the double culverts?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gonna redirect the channel from
To its original channel.
original channel. That's
Okay.
the intent.
See, what happened is that they diverted it because of the flow of the water at the time, and they couldn't get in there. But now they feel that we can get in there and get it back in its original channel, so it goes into the culvert the way it's supposed to.
So are they just gonna kind of do that from just above the road over to the culverts, or are they gonna go way up the hill and do that?
I don't know how far, they are going up the hill. I don't know
It's
how far
about
they're
50
going.
50 to 75 feet
Yeah,
up from the road, and they'll have to go up in there and break into the old channel. Or the old channel goes up like that, they'll just have to go up there, open it up, then block the
Yeah.
temporary channel we had, and divert it back into the original channel after we clean it out.
they're not going very far up the hill.
No.
But
It's
they will go up the hill to cut that.
50 or 75 feet. It'll have to be cleaned out, but you can see the ditch is still there.
Right.
And it's just simply opening it back up and re-channeling it, because the way it's working now, if we have any kind of a high water event,
Oh, I agree.
it'll blow the road apart.
Well, and even without a high water event.
It'll
just
eventually
the
eat it.
fact that it's eating under the asphalt, and as we start to get some freezes, we're kind of taking the chance of heaving on the edge of that asphalt and breaking the
You're just
asphalt.
asking for trouble, leaving it like it is.
I had a question, when are they expecting to do this?
I think that really Russell's looking to do this as soon as he can. So whether permitting and pending council's approval of the funds tonight, I think Russell's ready to start work.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll move to appropriate $6,915 from the city's general fund to restore drainage to the double culvert as originally intended.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Motion's been made and seconded to appropriate the drainage repairs at 1.3 mile St. Nick Road. Any more discussion on this? None? Okay, all in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, passed. December 2020 council meeting dates. This is December, and we're gonna end up having, what do you say, one meeting?
Yeah, generally because of the holidays and people's travels, we do one meeting in December instead of two. Because of the length between meetings, trying to do it around the time of the second scheduled meeting works best, about the middle of the month. There is one conflict. The 5th through 12th grade concert is on the 16th.
It's also the CTA's Christmas party, and I think she'll be working it, and me and Millie will be at it.
Okay. I would ask the council then if the 14th or 15th, that Tuesday or Wednesday, that week would work, and we can shift the meeting around. Other dates are good too, but
I think Tuesday or Wednesday is fine with her.
A question I have though, we need to find out whether we have to do an ordinance to block the state's thing going into effect on the 1st, or whether we can do it by resolution, because otherwise we're gonna have to have 2 meetings in December anyway. We'll have to have a quick special one for it or something for a first reading, And then we can have a regular one where we have all the, because we have to have all of our department heads, and we need to, before we declare that we're not gonna have a second one, because I think it's important that we get the moratorium on it for 90 days or 4 months or whatever we decide to do.
I'll find out. I'm sorry.
Is there conflict with the first meeting?
I don't think so. I think December 2nd is open. I would just ask that, my only concern about, if we only have one meeting in December, December 2nd would mean 5 weeks between
Meeting.
council meetings.
But we can always have a
But
special.
we can do, right, so I was gonna suggest that I'll work with RJ and find out whether we opt out of the ATV rule, which is how we would set a moratorium, either by resolution or by ordinance. If it's by resolution, we can do it at one meeting. If it requires an ordinance, I can poll the council for what would work for a short special meeting, just to hear either the first or second reading of that ordinance, if that would work. For the council, if you want us, we can schedule both meetings in December and go from there.
It's not uncommon for us to go that 5 weeks, because normally we do the first meeting in December and don't do the second one because of the conflicts with the school. But that's something I brought up for the last 20 years, is why won't the school switch to Wednesday? We've been talking about this for 40 years. They do it on the third Thursday every year. They should have some flexibility too, but lots of times we're already traveling by the 18th. People are leaving and going on vacation.
So we do an ordinance banning them from having it on Thursday?
I think we schedule their stuff around the other schools on the island.
Yeah.
All those schools have their own day of the week.
It could be a mess.
So I'm open to however the council wants, if the council wants to do the meeting on the 2nd and.
If I could like to do it on the 2nd, and then if we need to have a special meeting,
Yeah.
we can do it on the Tuesday or
Yeah.
Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday of that next week, or if something comes up, Brian, and we need a meeting, you can always call us, yeah, we'll do a
Okay.
meeting for you. I'm pretty
Yeah.
open for you, so.
Okay.
I'm open to that as well.
Beginning of
of the month
second.
is a lot less.
Yeah, so there's a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
All right, well,
Sure.
we'll schedule a meeting, the next meeting scheduled for December 2nd. I'll let you guys know at that meeting if we need to set a special meeting for second reading of an ordinance about the ATVs before January 1st.
Council comments? Yes, Mike?
A few things, actually. One is, I've heard a couple of people say that Madison has bought JS or is buying JS.
That too.
Is that BS, or I'm just curious?
So far, it's BS. I got called by Mr. Seeley and he met with me down at Dockside and he said that he'd been hearing the same rumors. And
Okay, it's BS, and if you've talked to him, it's BS.
it isn't happening yet that I'm aware of, so.
Two other things I want to share, just both of them I just learned in the last hour before I come to the meeting. Department of Ag is gonna announce, no roads on 9-point-something million acres in the Tongass tomorrow.
The what?
Department of Agriculture, no roads on 9-point-something million acres in the Tongass. And
So in other words, Prince of Wales, no more new roads.
well, it depends on what the 9 million acres is. So there's still, there's 16 some million in the Tongass, 9 some million. It'll most likely be the unroaded areas. So that's going to be announced tomorrow.
So is that Bar Mining Road as well as Power?
I don't think
The
so.
stuff that they said they were gonna allow?
I don't think so, but I don't know. I mean, that's what, we'll have to see tomorrow what the details on this are. I don't know, but it's coming. And then the other thing that I got wind of tonight, it's official, is Governor Dunleavy is appointing I forgot now the number, 9 or 10 or 11 member, I think it's 11-member committee to review bycatch in federal waters. The pressure got to him. I mean,
He
pressure's
ain't
been
the only one
intense.
that got to.
Well, it got to everybody.
I heard some stuff, comments up in AML, and the House getting a bunch of them were getting involved.
Oh, yeah, no, well, a lady from Western Alaska that I have met before, she just testified in front of a House committee in DC a few days ago about bycatch, and it got pretty big news. Pressure's on,
Yes, definitely.
so that's a good thing,
Yeah, and there's a lot of political pressure on them, so that's a lot,
and there's more coming.
and more coming. Exactly. So no, it's a good thing.
I'll forward the first issue. Mike, I'll ask Steve Silver to weigh in on the coming out of DC on the roadless issue, and Jonathan Christ Hopkins will be here on the 22nd. So I'll be spending some time with him, so bend his ear about this bycatch issue.
This bycatch issue is a federal issue because it's in federal waters, but it does affect us because we're connected to federal waters. And it affects the fish because they cross boundaries there.
I'll ask Representative Christ Hopkins to kind of keep an eye on what the governor, this governor's committee is going to be tasked for, and will do.
Well, the Alaska House had a hearing on it this last week on Monday or Tuesday. And Jonathan was, represented at the committee, and he spoke, in concern and asked a number of questions. They had 3 invited guests to answer questions. One was the director of Fish and Wildlife, Lang. One was somebody from the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council, and one was a representative from the trawl industry. And it was basically this. It was bullshit.
Okay, well, yeah.
I watched the whole
That's
thing.
why a lot of politicians are getting in line against this right now.
Yeah, it scared Dunleavy. That's exactly what happened. It scared the hell out of them. So it's good.
I'll touch base both at the federal and state level and try to keep on top of these.
Yeah, because public opinion is definitely starting to sway some opinions in the legal or political world. So that's a good thing.
There's more coming.
Any more comments?
Are the Christmas decorations that they put up, are those ours or, the power company?
They are out.
They are? I mean, they're kind of looking pretty sad. No, I mean, they're not very festive, and I don't know, it'd be nice to look into possibly making the town a little bit more festive around the holidays.
So the Pink Palace is offering to buy us new Christmas gear?
I mean, all this money we're just getting.
I think actually that I'll double check with Sherry and Russell and get back to you guys, but I think that there's already some effort in the current year's budget to kind of replace some of that stuff over this next year.
The weather's pretty hard on them.
Yeah.
It is.
Ken's LED ones are really nice though,
And
and they have just as bad weather. They've got big LED snowflakes
You're right.
and, yeah.
There's one that's supposed to be a shooting star, I think it is, and Kevin and I always joke that it's an octopus, because that's what was going on. It's the Christmas octopus.
I've heard some discussion about Christmas decorations, but it's not one of the things that I've completely wrapped my brain around in the
It's up there
first
with the letterhead.
2 weeks of city administratorship. So I'll find out though. I think there is some stuff being worked on, Chanel, and I'll let you know.
it's getting pretty Scroogey right there.
Okay. Any more comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, thanks, Millie.
Thank you.
Shelley, happy Thanksgiving to you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
Pounded the hammer,
Finally used it.
just for you.
All right.
Yeah, it is good troll business news. I'd already heard about it up there, so. Very good news.
Couldn't keep my first meeting to under an hour, but I'm close.